All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, over the weekend, the news broke that UFC 289 would be taking place in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I have yet to give my reaction or opinion on this matter because this was during the hiatus over the long weekend that I took. I want to give my reaction and thoughts on this, so we're going to do that. But before we do, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will thank you in advance because I'm Canadian, eh? And we're polite. And also, it's a Canadian theme video, so give me a subscription. I would greatly appreciate it. It means a lot. Okay, let's get right into it. Now, as I said, the news broke, right? Main event, Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena 3, which is insane. Kind of a weird trilogy. I think that if Alex Pereira isn't going to get a trilogy, it's a little weird that Juliana Pena would. But regardless, dude, we're not talking about that. The fight card itself, even with that fight on there, right, and especially with that actually being the main event, which I remember a time when Dana White said that Amanda Nunes would never headline event ever again because she pulled out after being cleared by the doctors, right, and decided that, nope, she wasn't going to fight. And I don't remember if it was against Valentina Shevchenko or who it was, but regardless, it doesn't really matter. She's apparently headlining. There's a few good fights on the card. Like, it's not totally awful, right? There's Nate Landwehr on there and Stephen Thompson as well with Mikhail Pereira. A common theme that I have been seeing in the comment section is, wow, you guys really did Canada dirty. What, at 4 years and this is what we get, and like, things along those lines. Like, yeah, they don't care about Canada, whatever, all of this nonsense. I want to assure everybody here, and you know what, this might bother some of my Canadian viewers. Most of my audience is not Canadian, but a good chunk is. I don't know how many are from this province, but besides the point, there might be some people that don't like this, but I super don't care. I want to assure everybody, do not feel bad for Canadians, especially Vancouver, the people of Vancouver, Vancouverites, I don't know what you want to call them. Don't feel bad for us. This is exactly what we deserve. In fact, you know what? I want them to remove Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Mikhail Pereira from that card. I don't want any more good fights being put on that card. This is exactly what Canadians deserve, especially those in Vancouver, British Columbia. Okay, now for some context. I grew up, born and raised in a suburb about 20 minutes away from Vancouver. Okay, I live in British Columbia still to this day, but I escaped the lower mainland because I hate the vast majority of people there, okay? This province, while being the most beautiful, in my opinion anyways, on the surface, landscape-wise, very pretty to look at. We've got the coast, we've got the mountains, we've got everything in between. This is a beautiful province in terms of the land. However, the city of Vancouver is absolutely, undoubtedly, responsible for this being the worst ran politically, again in my opinion, province in our country. I also saw some people wondering why they weren't going to Ontario. I have a sneaking, I don't know what that term would be, whatever. I have a suspicion that it's because of the betting scandal that happened with James Krause, and Ontario and Alberta being the two provinces to immediately ban betting on any professional MMA events whatsoever. So that might have something to do with it. But Vancouver, did they earn this? Vancouver deserves this. They are the reason our province is the only province that elects an NDP government. A bunch of people are not going to have any fucking idea what I'm talking about here, and I'm not going to try and get too overly political because that's not what this channel is about, but, provincially, and more importantly, federally, every fucking time, all of the outskirts around British Columbia, all of the people that live rurally or in the country or in the sticks, whatever the fuck you want to call it, vote a certain way. The city of Vancouver and then surrounding cities like fucking Richmond and Surrey all go, oh, guess what? We don't care about any of you, which is the vast majority of the land still in British Columbia, right? Like these condensed, overly populated areas have no fucking idea what goes on in the interior or northern British Columbia. They haven't the faintest fucking clue. They go, too bad, we're voting this way. The most left way that they could possibly vote, okay? Our city, Vancouver, our province's main city, has gone to absolute fucking shit in the last decade or so, okay? When I was in high school, I remember that Vancouver, British Columbia, very nice, appealing looking city, okay, if you're into that kind of shit. I'm not. I don't like fucking cities. I don't like people. Used to be, there was a bad area, okay? East Hastings was the bad area. You go down there, and it's still bad, but you go down there. If you go down there at night, you better be fucking careful. Mind your P's and Q's. Don't go down an alleyway, all this shit, right? Homeless people everywhere, drug addicts everywhere. Just disgusting. Literally, like, the fucking scum of the earth people that are there, okay? And it's funny because, like, Playland and shit, a bunch of fucking, and the Coliseum, a bunch of stuff that you, family-friendly events would be held at, is very close to this area. That is no longer the case. That has stretched. That has taken over all of Vancouver. Just a few short years ago, I took my children there to Granville Street, which was the nice street in Vancouver, British Columbia, okay? And there's a certain store on there, on that street, called the Rock Shop. They have a ton of, like, music paraphernalia and shit like that. My oldest son is a total fucking music head. He loves 80s rock and shit like that, so I thought I'd take him there, let him pick out a shirt, whatever. Fucking make a day of it. Literal human fecal matter, like, all over the fucking sidewalks, okay? Piss smell was everywhere, and we're outside, so it's like overwhelming. There is so much piss that even a guy, I mean, saying fresh air is kind of an oxymoron in a city like Vancouver, British Columbia, but I'll tell you what, even when a wind of fucking fresh air, fresh-ish air, would blow by, all you could smell was piss and shit. That city is fucking disgusting. It is absolutely due to policy, okay? We just broke the record for the most overdose deaths in one day in British Columbia here, with over 300 happening. And I would bet money on it that the vast majority of those happen in Vancouver, okay? Because here we just decriminalized every drug under the sun. Now, I'm going to say this might be a position that some of my viewers will disagree with, because I know, or I can at least make a educated guess on what your political leanings are. I personally didn't mind when they announced that they were going to be decriminalizing all of the drugs, and I'll tell you why. I have a view, and in order to keep that view consistent, I think that I'm almost obligated to agree with the position that I'm about to tell you. I don't think the government should ever tell you what you can or cannot or have not, whatever, what you have to put in your body. And I think many of you will know what I'm talking about. I don't think the government should ever be allowed to tell you what you can or have to put in your body, pardon me. I also don't think they should be able to tell you what you are not allowed to put in your body. So that's why I hold that position. I think that it's consistent with one another. And I don't want to be a hypocrite and say that, well, no, the government can't tell me what I have to put in my body, but they can definitely dictate what I am not allowed to. Like, I think that is incoherent to have those two views. Regardless, they did it in such a way, decriminalization, as I said, which I thought would have worked better for marijuana, because you're not getting laced weed. Like, people say that they got laced weed. They greened out. You know what I mean? Like, it's not effective or like profit friendly for a drug dealer to put precious other drugs in a plant like weed, that where, you know, oftentimes the high, it's stupid, okay? It's stupid. That being said, though, all of our other drugs, especially like white stuff, is laced with fentanyl, and not pharmaceutical grade either. So they made it that you could have 3.5 grams of all of these drugs that where, especially like fentanyl, a very small amount could kill a human. Very small. And these people aren't using fucking scales or anything like that. They have no idea what they're doing, dude. They don't give a shit. They're just doing it, okay? If you could buy pharmaceutical grade shit, overdoses would be way less, in my opinion anyways, because it's very hard to actually overdose on like pure cocaine, for instance. It's the stuff that gets put into it that gets stomped with it because certain stuff is cheaper than others and they're gonna whatever. Okay. So we had a record number of overdoses. So we got junkies everywhere, right? That being said, though, I still get hassled every time I go to the fucking pharmacist to get my pain medication, which is a very low grade, and the amount that I am prescribed is not enough per day that I'm even like getting a buzz or anything off of it. It's literally because my neck and my back are fucked. If I call that prescription in 2 days early, let's say because my nearest grocery store is 40 minutes away and that's also where my pharmacy is, and I want to fucking plan ahead, and if I need to grocery shop on this day, I don't want to be waiting till this fucking day and have to go back again to get my prescription. I will get hassled by the pharmacist and they will put slips in my fucking bag, about addiction and all this shit, and I think, god damn, dude, I could go buy an eighth of fentanyl off homeboy down the fucking street. I can't get these without getting hassled. You know what I mean? It's fucking strange. Either way, Vancouver has ruined this province, in my opinion. You know what another thing that they do is that because of the mass population there, they dictate a lot of other policy that happens. So, wildlife conservation. Again, not a fucking clue. These people have no clue. No clue. They deal with fucking trash raccoons, okay? Like big fat nasty fucking trash raccoons. That's about like the most wildlife you will see in Vancouver, British Columbia, unless you go to like Stanley Park or like fucking, you know what I mean, North Vancouver, and all, you might see a coyote here and there or whatever, but fucking in where I live, we've got wolves, coyotes, cougars, we've got black bears. You drive, an hour north, you got grizzly bears, you got all sorts of shit. Okay. We are no longer allowed to hunt grizzly bears here. Even though, and I read this statistic a while ago, so it may have changed since, but I would imagine that it still rings somewhat mostly true because we have not been allowed to hunt them for the last little while. British Columbia holds 25% of the entire world's grizzly bear population. Yet we're not allowed to hunt them. Okay, and all of these animal rights activists who also love the deer and the elk and the fucking moose and all that shit don't realize that when you let a bunch of fucking grizzly bears run around unchecked and you don't try to control the population whatsoever, you're gonna have less animals to love, you fucks. Okay, my buddy lives in Bella Coola, BC, riddled with wolves. A few years ago, they had like no caribou, which they usually would. And they're thinking, where's all these caribou? But of course, all these wolf activists, animal rights activists, whatever you want to call them, from Vancouver, fucking super woke cuck retards. Save the wolves, man. Save the wolves. Now, thank God our government hasn't listened to these imbeciles, because if you are from British Columbia, you will know, or you should know, that there's no fucking bag limit on wolves, okay? You buy, like, a fucking hunting license and you can kill wolves because there are so many of them that even having no bag limit doesn't put a dent into the population. My buddy, who I mentioned lives in Bella Coola, they then did like a wolf culling program thing where they took out a few packs of wolves. And what do you know, dude? Next year, ton of fucking caribou. Because the wolves drag the babies away from the mums and rip them to fucking shreds, and they don't give a shit, dude. We literally had a cougar walking through our backyard the other day. In the summertime, I have a black bear that walks around and takes fat shits all in my backyard, rips my trees down, fucking my neighbor's apple trees, rips them all down, eats all my fucking June berries before I have a chance to pick them, okay? It's irritating. Very irritating. But if they had it their way, which they very well might get it, because as the leader of the NDP, or pardon me, the former leader of the NDP, who was in fact our premier, which is like our fucking governor, essentially, from my American audience listening, John Horgan, just stepped down because of cancer and he was old and fucking whatever. He literally said, this is not my words, this is coming from a guy who's on the left, the leader of the NDP party in British Columbia, said that his party has been taken over by activists. And he said that they're climate thugs. And this was a guy who was pretty damn progressive when it comes to that kind of shit. So if he's saying it, it's fucking true, okay? This is what Vancouver deserves. Take Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Mikhail Pajeda off that card. Take Nate Landwehr and get him off that card. Take every fucking good fight off that card and stick it on another one. Because I'll tell you another thing too, dude. Same shit, policies, okay? Apparently in British Columbia, we got different science than everywhere else. I don't know if anybody told you guys that, but we do. Apparently, we have the best science on planet Earth. Because just a fucking week ago, did they drop a certain mandate that which would require you to have, taken their secret juice in order to go see, like, my dying mother, for instance. If my mother, before a fucking week ago, dude, if my mother was in the hospital dying, I was not allowed to go visit her. You know what I mean? I wasn't allowed to leave my country for a very long time. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. They just fucking dropped that. Everywhere else in Canada had that dropped for a very long time. Relative, anyways. Not a very long time compared to some other places, but a very long time compared to our province. And our province went, no, we're better. We're stuck-up leftist cucks who elect the fucking, essentially, just a party full of fucking socialist activists, okay? So, don't feel bad for Vancouver. Don't feel bad for Canada. And look, I know that obviously everywhere there will be individuals that are based. I know that there are going to be people in Vancouver that do not agree with the politics that the city of Vancouver gets elected, okay? If it wasn't for Vancouver, Justin Trudeau might not have gotten elected. Like, you know what I mean? Because he barely just skates by. You know what I mean? So our 7 fucking whatever points that go towards that shit, if Vancouver would just fucking listen to the rest of the province that doesn't live in a condensed fucking disgusting city, then we wouldn't have that absolute fucking trash bag as a leader, dude. It bothers the shit out of me, man. And sorry, I understand that there are base people in Vancouver. I understand that, there are people who do not agree with the things that go on in Vancouver. I understand that. But guess what? You guys are the exception, right? I'm generalizing here, but you're the exception. And I wish you weren't, but you are. This is exactly what the fuck Vancouver, Canada deserves. Fuck Vancouver, dude. Fuck them. Don't feel bad for them. I'm telling you, dude, I came from there. I literally left there because I couldn't go to my local grocery store, and I didn't even live in Vancouver. I lived in a much less populated, like I said, a suburb, Tsawwassen, British Columbia, okay? I couldn't go to the grocery store without a fucking covering, without getting yelled at by people and dirty looks and shit like that. There was so much shit. I couldn't enroll my son in jiu-jitsu class without him and one of his parents having it. Huh, dude? Huh? And I think it's pretty safe to say now that their secret juice didn't do half of what they said it would. So it's not like they're justified. They're not. It's gross, man. Fuck Vancouver. They don't deserve any better. That's it. This is exactly what they deserve. Look at the goddamn thumbnail. Look at the fight that they're going to get to watch. Juliana Pena's got her eyes fucking closed, throwing those punches at Amanda Nunes. That's what they deserve. So I'm sorry if there is anybody in my audience from Vancouver who is upset by this message. I am sorry if there are other Canadians, who are in my audience that are upset by this message. But fuck Vancouver, British Columbia. It is the literal armpit of our province, okay? Surrey, British Columbia used to be considered the armpit of our province. Now I would just draw a circle around all those cities. They are all the armpit. They are all one big fucking armpit. Okay, they might even be even worse, dude. They might be some fat, nasty, like fucking trucker dude's taint of our province. That's what they are. That's about as bad as it fucking smells walking the streets of Vancouver, British Columbia, okay? So, again, don't feel bad, dude. Like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. I'll thank you in advance because I'm Canadian, And I will see you at the next video. Bye bye.